All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and I'd like to call to order the August meeting of the Rappahannock-Rapidan Regional Commission. Also like to welcome Supervisor Mitchell. Welcome. We are on the Rappahannock River Basin Commission together.
Yes.
He's from Orange and was appointed earlier this month.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quorum, yes.
Sure, yep.
Right. And is Mr. Weekly on?
He's not, I don't know if we want to approve that.
Might as well, we might pop in. Yep, we're expecting Jonathan Weekly to join us. So in accordance with the remote participation policy, we did receive a request from Mr. Weekly to participate remotely due to a medical condition that prevents his attendance in person. And I would ask for a motion to approve that remote participation request.
So moved. Second.
Motion in a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you.
And there he is.
Oh, good, perfect timing. Let's see. Now, are there any changes to the agenda that was distributed? There are none. We could have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving into public comment. Do we have any members of the public?
And then part of the meeting, I don't see anybody here.
Okay,
Oh, yes, sir. Duke. Thank you, sir.
now we're moving into presentations. Today we have Michelle Edwards, Director of Regional Planning, on the recently completed farm to school gap analysis. It was funded in part by the USDA Farm to School grant received in 2024. Thank you, Michelle, for being here.
That's the very much for having me. Okay. So this grant will go on for another year and there's multiple facets to this grant project. But the main one for RRC is this farm to school analysis.
Should go, but let me know if not. Yeah, all right, I'll do it.
No, okay. Let's see. This is the first one. No, back up. There we go. So the process for this analysis was we did a survey of all 5 school districts, nutrition directors. And I'll say that the surveys, we worked very closely with our regional food council, which is made up of experts from everything from nutrition to farmers to processors, etc. And also representatives that are appointed by each of your counties. Also, we did a producer survey, so mostly those were farmers, but they also included a few aggregators and such. And then we did 3 more in-depth producer interviews of Popple Weaver pork, Mount Pleasant growers, and 4P Foods, which is an aggregator and processor. And then we also then worked with our food council and our USDA farm to school staff to identify gaps between buyers and sellers' needs and opportunities to bridge those gaps. I'll also mention that farmers had the option to opt in to a farm to school producer directory that was developed based on the survey results. And that directory has already been shared with the nutrition director. It's not available to the public because it has the contact information, but we provided it to the schools to be able to expand their local procurement. So based on those data sets, we identified some key findings that I'll go over. One being, from current and future sales, there is strong interest from both camps, from both the schools and the farmers in farm to school, that this is not a major roadblock. 37% of the respondents have sold to schools, and 74 would like to sell to schools in the future. So these, there is definitely interest there in moving forward with this. So results indicated the opportunity to double the number of producers selling to local school districts in the region. On certifications, this also luckily was not a significant roadblock, although producers may benefit from having what they call a gap certification when selling to schools. Although 46% of producers do not have any certification, 10% are already gap certified, and a few more are in the process of being certified. But most importantly, none of the school districts in the region require any specific certifications. Although 3 stated they would like to have producers be certified in GAP, it's not a requirement. So this is something we can kind of slowly work with folks like Cooperative Extension and others to get producer certified, but this isn't something that is an eminent need. Delivery, however, is a significant roadblock, as you can see from this graph. Schools want delivery, well, the school districts want delivery to each and every schools. And currently, this is just not something that our producers are able to provide. Only 44% of the producers out there that want to sell to schools are able to meet the school district's needs. So you can see that 28% cannot distribute at all. There is a small percentage, I think it says 77% have a relationship with a third-party distributor that can distribute. There's another percentage, 28% that can deliver to one location within a district, but they can't deliver to each and every school. So that's something that we definitely have to work on, potentially working with existing aggregators and distributors that sell local food, possibly allowing farmers to deliver to one location by aggregating those shipments. And then the distributors are more capable of delivering to each and every school. One thing that should be noted with this is that only one of the 5 school districts have asked their current food aggregator or distributor to offer local schools. So if more districts ask, there's a potential that those vendors may be able to meet that demand. There's also a mismatch between what school districts in the region want to purchase and what producers are currently able to provide. There is a significant lack of freezer space, which causes schools to prefer fresh produce, which is limited by seasonality, of course. Some districts also do not buy local meat, and others buy very little, even though we are mostly a meat producing region. So that is also a mismatch. But there are potential opportunities and solutions with this. We note a number of them. Working with aggregators and value-added processors may allow small farmers to provide the quantities schools are looking for. So even though some of our farmers do produce things like berries, they produce them in such small amounts that they would need to work with an aggregator in order to get that to a level that the schools can provide. Producers need advance notice to adjust production, we found, but in many cases, they're willing to do so to meet demand. I know Papa Weaver Pork has said, Tom Weaver has said many, many times that they can meet school demand if they know in advance, that farmers can adjust how much they produce on their crops if they know in advance. So I think it's more about building a relationship than it is that farmers are simply not able to do it. To some degree, I'll temper that. One of the other options is exploring infrastructure grants for new freezers or central freezers for districts that may allow them to purchase local frozen produce, because that's certainly an option. And working with aggregators and processors to reduce storage time, so to have more often shipments may free up space as well. And then lastly, outreach to schools and also VDH which was another stumbling block in this, may help reduce food safety concerns around local meat. So one of the reasons schools don't want to purchase local meat is the idea that it's not as safe, or that, the frozen burger coming from Cisco is safer than buying local meat from the farm down the road. And there's many schools around the state and around the country who do use local meat. So it can be safe, but it's a matter of convincing, especially the kitchen staff, who are afraid of messing up. And so there's training that needs to be involved. And also exploring those other regions, finding out, how did you do it? How are you able to work with your health department and work with your kitchen staff in order to make it safe for our children? So I think there's a lot of room there, and there's a lot of interest from people on our food council. Jacob from Fauquier, the Ag Economic Development Director, certainly is super interested in exploring this further. So that'll be one of the things we're going to be looking at with the food council. Also, cooking equipment is an issue for some school districts. There's a couple of school districts in the region that are actually reducing their kitchen infrastructure instead of expanding their kitchen infrastructure, possibly due to staffing and space limitations. They've gone towards these combi ovens, which you do a lot, but there's a lot that you can't do with it. It's not a stove top. So they're getting rid of all their old kitchen equipment and just going to this combi oven. And there are significant issues if you want to cook from scratch. You can heat things, but you can't, make a sauce, for example. You're just basically reheating. So that's kind of what we found is in some school districts, instead of moving more to local food and scratch cooking, they're moving the opposite direction. So one potential solution is to work with value-added processors such as the Carver Food Enterprise Center to allow school districts to procure value-added food. So if it's an issue of their staff not being able to do scratch cooking, they're having trouble hiring people, there's other options to get value-added local food that may meet their needs. So that's something that we'll be looking into as well. And I'll say that the other part of this grant is doing a pilot study that we've been doing over the last, 6 months with Carver Food Enterprise Center as a pilot in Rappahannock County schools, providing some either full meals or side dishes that are value-added meals to Rappahannock County schools to see if it's feasible, and then being able to expand to other districts. Okay, so we asked specifically on the school survey and the producer survey, what are your biggest challenges? We had, a list of a few and then asked them if there's other challenges. So these are the results of what they said their biggest challenges are. For the schools, it was a tie between price and kitchen staff time. All of the schools are having staffing challenges for sure. Number 2 was a tie between delivery and procurement and administration time. So again, that time thing, the staffing thing. I know in Orange County schools, certainly the nutrition director was having to work as a cafeteria worker quite frequently. So it's a major issue for sure. And then number 3, finding local products, which is certainly something that we can continue to help with them. That was one of the reasons for the producer directory, which we'll continue to add to over time. And then producers' biggest challenges were 1, difficulty guaranteeing a specific quantity on a specific date, which anybody that is a farmer shouldn't be surprised about. Especially the weather we've been having lately. Number two, they don't produce enough quantity to meet demands. And then number three, a tie between the school budget limitations and delivery logistics. So some common themes are delivery and price are common challenges for both groups, as is availability. So opportunities and we found that could be potential solutions. There's a number of them. One, again, is working with aggregators like 4P Foods, like Harbor Food Enterprises. There's, a number out there, particularly those that are able to provide value added foods, which can reduce meal prep time, dealing also with the staffing issues. Secondly, purchasing cooperatives. This is a really big one that we will be pursuing with the school nutrition directors and the food council. These purchasing cooperatives help increase purchasing power and drives down price, and could also put pressure on produce distributors that they currently have to consider working with smaller producers in the region. 4 of the 5 nutrition directors said that they were very interested in this in the survey. They said it would help increase their farm to school procurement. And the nutrition directors have said that they're already utilizing purchasing cooperatives in other ways together. So to me, this is a no-brainer to pursue this and see if this is feasible. Also, something that has been discussed and was something that USDA suggested was seasonal cycle menus. There's a number of schools that already utilize cycle menus where you're kind of rotating through a menu, but having these be seasonal and possibly working together to join up your seasonal cycle menu so it can work with the purchasing cooperative. So you're buying the same thing in a cycle. So districts can then forecast local product needs and potentially engage with the forward contracts with local producers and align when they plan to serve these items. They can also work with like CFC, for example, to engage them in being able to provide targeted value foods for these cycle menus. So by working together, we might be able to solve this issue. And then finally, another thing that was identified was working with state, federal government, nonprofit funders to bridge the gap between the price issues. I think this is something that we're gonna just have to continue working with and shaking the bushes on providing that last little bit between what they would pay if it wasn't local and what they would pay if it's local. I know this is something that the PATH Foundation has brought up again and again, wondering what that gap is, because they would potentially be interested in not funding everything, but funding that, that margin. So this is there was a centralized procurement pilot project with 4P Foods that all of the schools, I believe, participated in. And it was a huge success, but it was funded by the federal government. And recently that money went away. So we need to explore alternatives to this because it's something that already worked really, really well. It doesn't have to just be 4P Foods. It could be other providers as well. But this is something that worked. The schools were doing it. They were buying local, and we want to be able to continue that momentum. So next steps is to distribute these results to the wider stakeholders. The nutrition directors have it. The Food Council has had it, but spreading it more widely, also sharing it with USDA and Department of Education in Virginia. They're all very interested to hear this. I don't know if it'll bring any funding to us, but I will say there's going to be this fall a listening session for a Virginia food system resiliency plan at the Carver Center. They're doing 5 listening sessions around the state. The one at Carver is the only one that's in person. And I'll be kicking off the session with a presentation on the work we've done in the region with the food plan. And the goal is to have those listening sessions, and it'll lead into having a Virginia food system resiliency plan. I'm hopeful that it'll eventually end in some sort of funding for this work. Because other states, I mean, North Carolina has so much more funding than we do, and I would love to see that happen, but we will see. It's something that cooperative extension at the state level is working on, so. We'll see where that goes. Also working with the nutrition directors and producers and our other partners to explore the opportunities that I've shared. So I think we got a lot of really great feedback, a lot of really good suggestions, and there's a path forward. We have options. So I think it was a really good project.
Thank you. It's great. Anybody have questions? I've got a ton, but
So do
I
I.
have to.
Terrific presentation, Michelle. You know, I think we all, you know, childhood obesity, I think, is it every time it's read new data about it, it's just worse and worse. It's just staggering, you know. So any way that we can, you know, provide healthier food into our schools, I think is a real plus. I did want to mention that years ago, before I retired, Fauquier County had made a huge push in that direction. I mean, a major commitment.
They
Do you know, knows all about
Yes.
that? I'm sure too. So did you spend some, you know, time talking to them about how they kind of set all that up? And they seemed to overcome a lot of the hurdles that you that you had brought up there, or at least my impression was that they had made a lot of strides to bridge that gap.
I mean, so we regularly meet with the nutrition directors and have talked to Sue Ann Fox, who heads up all of that.
That's
So
right, yeah.
yes. I mean, so we're well aware of that. You know,
I guess I'm thinking maybe since Rappahannock is going to be
Yes,
the
yeah.
pilot, that they might, you know, if they connect
Yes.
with Fauquier, they could get a better idea of how Fauquier was able to do that.
I mean,
It was a big production.
Parallel tracks Rappahannock and Fauquier through the Fresh program.
Yes.
And well, you all called yours something different than Fresh.
Yeah, I
It's,
know. But
it's-
obviously a smaller market,
Yeah.
easier to
Yeah.
Yeah,
identify. And we have some very, very local farms in sell, right?
Yes,
Like across the street practically.
yes,
Is 4P acting as the aggregator for?
I did not know.
somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat.
I mean, well, I'm not, so 4P does still sell to Rappahannock. They're one of the schools that they still work with. All of our schools have challenges. All of our districts have challenges. They're just very different. Obviously, you know, Rappahannock is much smaller than Fauquier. So even if, you know, everybody has room to grow and room to learn from each other for sure. And so we're starting up our quarterly, or at least semi-annual meetings with our school nutrition directors next Tuesday. They'll be here to hear this same presentation. Some of them are already on our food council, so they come to hear this stuff all the time on a quarterly basis. But yes, so it's a work in progress, and they certainly do learning from each other for sure. And yes, some of the work that Fauquier has done is transferable. Some of it is maybe beyond the funding of some of our districts, but I think there's things we can take from.
And they were
for sure.
redoing entire kitchens with
Yes, they've recently,
ovens and
yes.
everything was replaced. It was
All of
a
that.
huge investment.
It was, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. They are not one of the ones that are struggling on.
All right.
Yeah, one of the other strides that some of our districts have made is on milk. The Dairy Alliance provided free milk machines to any schools that wanted them, and a number of our school districts took them up on that offer. So they have almost like you would go for a soda dispenser, but it provides white milk and chocolate milk, like low fat milk. And all the ones that took them up on the offer saw a huge increase in kids drinking milk, because it tastes better than the milk that you get from little cartons, for sure. It's fresher, and they come in these like plastic bags that they hook up into the dispenser. And I think the school districts that didn't go with it were afraid that, you know, the elementary school kids would make a mess of it, but that wasn't the case. So it worked really well. we continue to move forward with all these ideas.
Do we have a sense of whether the local farmers are expanding supply or diverting part of their previous supply to schools? And where's the food going now? If it's going to go to schools, or if it's going to schools now, where is it gonna go? What is the competing user of the local foods?
It depends on the farmer. Some of it certainly goes to outside of the region. I mean, wherever you're gonna get your best price kind of thing. I know, like, for example, Waterford Penny Farm, they take their produce to DC farmers markets. So it's something we have been working on for sure over the course since we started doing the food system plan, is getting that food to stay here as much as possible. I mean, farmers need to make a living. So I'm very cognizant of that they, it doesn't do us any good to say, keep the food here if they can't put food in their kids' mouth kind of thing, or keep their land. So, it's a matter of doing things to give them the price they need while still getting food in our schools. So that's what we're trying to do. But yeah, it's not that it's not necessarily being produced, it's just not necessarily being sold here.
Right.
But yeah, yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a question about the federal grant. What, remind me, or me particularly, what it was for, and how much of that, what amount was it?
The
Provided?
USDA farm to school grant, I'll have to get back to you on the amount. I don't recall what the total amount was for our farm to school grant. That
And what
was
did it do?
so the farm to school grant that
Right.
paid for this, paid for the pilot study that Harbor Food Enterprise Center and we are doing in Rappahannock County Schools, and it paid for this gap analysis. So it wasn't a consultant that's doing any of it. It was for equipment at Harbor Food Enterprise Center to be able to process at a level for schools. And then it paid for my staff time and our food system specialist staff time to do the analysis and the tastings for
So
the.
was it a one-time grant, or was
It
it,
is a one-time grant to do the analysis.
so the fact that at least a portion of it's not being renewed doesn't have quite the direct impact?
No, this was just a one-time thing and the grant has not gone away. We were very lucky that federal grant was not yanked.
Okay, thank you.
That's still happening. Most of the money honestly is already spent. Because a lot of it was equipment money that they certainly hurried to purchase. And gap analysis is already done. So most of that money is safely spent at this point. It's the 4P Foods money that was going to that centralized procurement pilot. It was, Virginia was one of the few states that got that money. Most states apparently didn't even go after it. And it funded 4P Foods in most of the state, and then the Appalachian Sustainable Development folks did the Appalachian region. So
What is 4P?
4P Foods is an aggregator. They started out actually doing like those little box meal type things in the DC area, but they were out of North Lake Fauquier area, but they sold to DC. So they've been, they bought out the local food hub in Charlottesville and started operating that as well. So they've really went away from that type of thing to like the boxes, sales, to trying to do more local food.
So
So they have a
the farm to
facility
school.
in- Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been really trying to focus more on
Okay.
local food and farm to school. It's just that the lack of funding has kind of dismantled that, but they've been around for quite some time.
I think Mr. Brown has a question.
Yes, sir.
Interesting, when I was talking to Tom McDougall, 4P
Yes.
this morning, he's a tenant of ours, and so we watched him evolve from, it was a Culpeper business in a couple thousand square feet. He's now got 14,000 square feet in one of our buildings, and he went when COVID hit, he was primarily going, he had shifted a lot of his business to institutional. So he's selling to UVA and James Madison, et cetera. COVID hit and they all shut down. So literally, and he had just moved into my new building. Then he called to say, things might get rough here, right? But then within a week, he had found a cab company that was going out of business with a bunch of empty cabs. And they shifted to selling to people who were afraid to go to grocery stores.
Hmm.
And so he was selling bags of food by cab drivers that would otherwise have been out of business. And he called to say, I need more space. So
Wow.
he's done a good job of shifting with it.
Yes, I mean, he's amazing.
He really is incredible.
Really is.
Uh,
He was, 4P was one of the main organizations that started what's called MAFRAC. It's like Mid-Atlantic Assistance Coalition or something like that. And they purchase food from local farms. They have like a Friday call where they hear what farmers have and what food banks need, and they give market prices to farmers. And then are able to get that to food banks in the area. So it's a win-win sort of situation. And it started through COVID. It was something that, you know, that was a need, that farmers were hurting and the food banks were hurting. And
This morning, Tom and I were talking about this very topic coincidentally, and he said that one of the things they've noticed is the shift in the institutions where they are not able to process as much internally.
Yeah.
He said, a lot of places I can't deliver whole carrots. I have to do carrot circles, you know? And so he said, we need processing. And so I'm wondering, is the Carver Center, is it big enough if this thing did take off and if the pilot turned into something that could serve all of our counties? Is Carver Center equipped to be able to do that processing, or do we, you know, what I'm wondering is this a Go Virginia opportunity for a grant or a regional cooperative investment? You know, do we need a 100,000 square foot warehouse somewhere that could employ 1,000 people chopping up carrots?
I mean, Carver certainly is looking to expand. They have a whole nother room that they can expand into. It's just a matter of getting that second piece funded so they can do co-packing and so they can do more of this. Right now, I would have to say it would have to be on a limited basis, you know, a few times a month kind of thing. It's definitely not an everyday sort of thing. I don't think the schools could afford buying local every day kind of thing to begin with. I think that's a bridge too far. We're not there yet. And I mean, I really think it would probably be a joint effort between the two organizations that are working together, because they've already done some trial runs with co-packing for 4P foods so that they would get, you know, produce from local farmers here, make tomato sauce for 4P, and 4P gets it to the schools.
Right.
So this has always been intended to be a partnership between multiple organizations. There's no self-fulfilling, but it's. Yes.
Michelle, in line with Supervisor Broadus, it seems to me our area has been, at least in Rappahannock, I know, wanting of a meat processor. There's just not enough of that. So it seems to me if you're gonna do something regional and you add that to it, you can freeze the meat. You know, it's not like produce that's gonna go bad. So is there a way to help our farmers and their production and actually not waste the meats from the schools because they're frozen until they need them? And then you have your produce packaging and everything else that could go along. It wouldn't have to be, you know, the same amount of meat and the same amount of carrots. You could freeze the meat and use it all year long.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
a
protein
small
seems to be a
facility
huge-
is something entirely different than what we're talking about here, but I'm not saying that's not needed, but that's not part of what we're talking about
Sure.
with this. Certainly the folks at CFEC at the Carver Food Enterprise Center have talked about doing things like taking local beef and putting them into things that schools can use, or making those, you know, meatballs and things that the schools feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And instead of giving them a block of ground beef, you know, having it be things the schools are more comfortable with so they can bridge those food safety gaps. Because Carver's great on food safety. They have it completely down pat, no concerns there. They can do that. They just can't break down a cow.
Right.
So, yes, there is lots of room for those kinds of things on the meat realm as well.
But you know, Michelle, recently Carver hosted that gentleman from Virginia Tech, the dean of something over there. You may want to reach out to Carl Stafford regarding this, because it appeared to me that the dean for, not Forlazzo, that's our local restaurant, it was Italian. And anyhow, but he came, and so there appeared to be an interest in Virginia with Virginia Tech in investing money into Carver, and also trying to help Carver find ways to improve their operations out there. So I think Tech is looking at a way to assist. So you might want to connect with Carl and just see if, you know what I'm saying, if that's something that Tech might want to
Yes.
work with us on.
Yeah, I mean, I know they've had a lot of irons.
Ferrucci, that was his name.
What?
Ferrucci was the dean thing,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a lot of irons in the fire. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
With everything going on at the federal government and it trickling down to the state, they had tentatively received a pass-through grant from USDA to VDAX, and they were waiting, and they've been waiting, and
Right.
I'm still crossing my fingers, but less so at
Yep.
this point.
Mhm.
So I
Okay.
don't know what is still in the pipeline and what isn't, and what other things might have popped up. So,
Okay.
yes, we'll talk, but.
Is the slaughterhouse a regional need? I know that our economic development folks did a survey a year or two ago and came back and concluded that there wasn't enough demand. And then a couple producers reached out and said, they asked the wrong questions. And so we're going back and doing that again. I think Jacob is working on it, and there's talk of a potential one. My sense is it's been mostly to meet the Fauquier needs, but is that a need everybody else is seeing as well? Or you're,
Oh, yeah.
like our producers are saying, I would grow more cows if there were more places to kill them.
Yeah, I mean,
During COVID, they had like a year wait.
I think they still do it.
At
Yeah.
least 6
I mean,
months.
there was a
Wow.
facility that was being, it was one that did game that was being converted into a USDA inspected facility in Madison. But they had major issues with DEQ and septic, and I think just,
That was like a USDA grant or something, right?
I believe so. I mean, they were working with Cooperative Extension on that. Brad Jarvis from Madison, Cooperative Extension had been integral in that project. And then when he left, I haven't heard, and I've asked so many people and nobody can tell me anything progressing on it. So I think it's probably a dead project. So, yeah, I mean, there had to be a business sense for that facility for sure. There's been lots of other people who have talked about it, even like Charlottesville had been doing feasibility studies, and I think they're moving forward with the facility. There's a need. So I've been asking Jacob to put out results, and so I guess that's why he didn't present the results yet. But whatever happens with the new feasibility study, I would be interested and we can help.
Michelle, I think Mr. Weekly has a question too, if we're done.
I'm done, yeah.
I just unmuted just to let Michelle know that, yeah, Hidden Pines, they, for whatever reason, have not been able to make that launch and be successful yet with USDA. That was an AFIT grant. I believe that extension is running out very soon. It's unfortunate. They're still doing their wild game processing. And that's kind of how they got their start. But it's unfortunate that that has not panned out at this point in time.
Thank you so much for that.
They had Congressman Bendon there the other day, last week, I think.
Oh, really?
So doing
Yeah.
stuff.
There's so many deer killed. Our local processors couldn't keep up with the slaughtered a deer and donate to the food pantry deal that we've got going on. So I think if we could get into something regional, it would be a win-win.
It would be, for sure. Yes. So,
Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent agenda, there's 6 items Does anyone have anything they'd like to pull from the consent agenda? All right, if not, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
all right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Executive Director's Report, you're on.
Yep, I didn't have attachments for the three items I highlighted there, but I'll kind of go into a little bit more detail on each of those, just in my comments here. The first thing I just want to say that thanks to all of you that have RCP so far for the annual meeting on October 1st. We do have a very brief update later on, but we're looking pretty normal in terms of registrations, things like that. So looking forward to that. And we did release the legislative services RFP that was in earlier in August. Proposals are due September 4th, so next Thursday. So we'll see what we get after that and return to you all and also coordinate with the chief administrative officers on that one as well. Sure. And then before I get to the three items I called out, the water supply planning coordination that we've been working on, the first 90-day contract ends in September. We do have a meeting scheduled next Thursday, September 4th. Really just to provide the stakeholder, the representatives that are named for the regional planning unit, just with an update on what we've been doing. There's been a lot of data requests. I think one thing that Michelle and I both agree on is that the communication between DEQ reaching out with information and then us reaching out has been a complicating factor. We've actually spoken with DEQ on that, and I think that was largely because of the way they were reading their code requirements. So we hope that moving forward from this, there will be less duplication for those of you that are getting all those emails on water supply for the next 3 or 4 years moving forward. And then the three items that I've got, I just bullet pointed real quick. I wanted to talk briefly about the Regional Transportation Cloud Mobility Center. As part of the budget amendments that were on the consent agenda, the biggest amendment for the current fiscal year was a moving of more than $300,000 from contractual arrangement and contractual expenses on mobility management and apportioning those out to internal here to the commission, payroll, benefits, things of that nature. We've had a contract with Encompass for about more than 10 years to provide that operation for the mobility center, which is the call center functionality. And I think internally amongst staff that are managing that program, finance staff internally here and myself, over a period of time felt like the timing was right to look at that arrangement again and made a decision. And I spoke with the chair last month to move forward with that. Our contract with Encompass ends the end of September, and so we are currently in the process of I've had conversations and very, very cordial with Ms. Reinstrom at Encompass. I think she kind of felt the same way. I think some of the frustration that we felt, they had also felt. So that means we're bringing on staff to operate that mobility center and do the operations. We're currently hiring for those positions right now, but I didn't want to share that with you in case it comes up separately. Again, I think our feeling is that it was just a good time to revisit it, and I think we're in a good position with the mobility center. Second item is I've got items on the Regional Housing Summit. So if you recall, for those of you that were here last December, I believe we sort of broached the idea of convening a Regional Housing Summit. At that point, the direction to staff was, move forward, see what you can come up with. Jennifer Little, that was on staff, who left at the beginning of July, was sort of leading that effort for the past 6 months. That has since fallen back to me, but I am happy to report we've got a good steering committee that we've been working with. It includes Culpeper Human Services, Encompass, Fauquier Habitat, Community Housing Partners, People Incorporated, Path Foundation, Heroes Bridge, Aging Together, amongst others. And really what we've sort of kind of coalesced around is looking at March of 2026 as a date for, late March 2026 as a date for a one-day kind of 8:30 to 3:30 Regional Housing Summit. Focused on having a morning keynote, likely on speaking on demographics and housing trends, more of a set the stage for the discussion. Also want to have probably a after lunch keynote talking about really the case for innovation and affordable housing. And then 3 panels, and what they've sort of developed at this point is one panel focused specifically on housing challenges for veterans and the aging population, which is 2 of our key demographics in this region. And that goes back to when we did the housing study in 2020. A developers panel, so going through lessons learned, innovative approaches in terms of partnerships and also overcoming challenges. And then a 3rd panel, likely on focused on land trusts, because I think that's one for our region that potentially has some real offers some real opportunity moving forward. So funding wise, I'm in talks with Virginia Housing to submit a sponsorship grant. They have sponsored these all over the state regionally, so I feel confident in that. The Half Foundation has offered to support as well. I would offer to you that in October, if there's any need for funding, whether in kind or anything else from the commission that would require a budget amendment, I would come back to you at that point with that request. But at this point, I don't feel that there's going to be much besides our staff time we've committed to it. And there would be a registration fee is the direction we're going. So I think we're in good shape for that. And I think we're looking at, 6 or 7 months from now. So that moving on in earnest beyond this. And then the last item I wanted to give an update on is the hazard mitigation plan. We submitted, we've been working on the hazard mitigation plan. Michelle, John, myself, and Berkeley Group was our consultant. That was really a 2023 to 2024, late 2023 to 2024 project. We submitted the draft. We had a public meeting back in October of last year, submitted a draft to EDEM for their review in December. We did not hear anything formal from FEMA until July. So that's a 6 or 7 month period in between. I think reading between the lines, I think some of that has to do with staffing issues at FEMA, staffing changes at FEMA. I think there was also miscommunication between EDEM and FEMA in terms of what a informal review versus a formal review means. And so we were sort of just waiting and getting periodic updates from EDEM saying, yeah, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And in reality, I think it was not as far along in FEMA's process. So the short answer, the short report is that we did have a call with FEMA and EDEM in July. And we've been working over the last 30 days with Berkeley Group to address any issues that FEMA identified with the plan. And I think, Michelle, we're hoping this week we have everything we need from Berkeley Group to resubmit.
She seemed to think that it would be by the end of the day, but yes, definitely by, yes.
So I think
It's
I
very,
think-
very soon. We'll have the files and we will send them or make them available to FEMA to then do the final review, which hopefully won't take 6 months.
And the other piece of that is that in the plan review tool, FEMA also, raised the question of, oh, you didn't do what they call added a mitigation strategy for high hazard potential dams. And we do there's lots of information on dams in the plan, but that was something that came in after we had applied for funding and after we had been awarded funding as a requirement. So FEMA was asking us, well, why didn't you do this? And the response was, well, it wasn't a requirement when we went in. But they also shared with us that there's a pending grant funding in the region that does require that and offered, you can include, if you can meet these requirements between now and resubmittal, then that would allow that funding to come forward. We didn't actually know about that funding request either until FEMA shared with us. So we've made those changes as well. We're hopeful that will address it. If it doesn't address it, then we have the opportunity to ask for some long-winded waiver that would allow us to continue to work on that while that grant funding does become available. So that's a long way of me saying that we hope to be out to all of you locally in the fall with adoption procedures for that. And I just do want to remind everybody that it's an adoption for the hazard mitigation plan, which is a FEMA requirement, but also a resiliency plan for the Commonwealth Flood Preparedness Fund funding as well. So it will meet both of those requirements for future funding.
Just to interject, DCR approved the resiliency portion of the plan. Oh goodness, in like April, March, February, so a long time ago. Yes.
So that's it for director's report. I'm happy to, as always, answer questions.
Moving into old business, the only one I see on there is regional broadband project status. Anybody want to talk about it?
It's going.
It's going? Are you seeing some?
They met with us last week about middle mile, and starting to give timelines. They want to do a groundbreaking ribbon cutting. Still not until next year, first customer, first quarter 20.
They reached out to us about a groundbreaking. We said, sure, as soon as you break ground.
Yeah.
Be happy to work on that.
Ground.
Yeah, be right there with the truck. Get golden shovels, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
They have submitted permits for us, but I mean, that's where they were with you.
Yeah, they're having
long time
trouble
ago, so.
with VDOT.
I took time and met with VDOT,
Okay, good.
and talked through what was truly needed, and I think we came to a good middle ground that will work. Since we don't have, accurate GIS or anything, and so, hopefully that'll free things up a little bit.
They told us we were gonna see some action July, which we'll pass that.
Yep.
So, and I did talk to supervisor, I can't remember her last name, her first name's Phyllis from Loudon at the VACO meeting, and I asked her how it was going, because it was her district that it was mostly in, and she said 2 years late, but when people are getting it, they're happy. And I said, okay, so.
Customers now connected. Firefly did filed an extension, I believe awarded that extension through DHCD for June of 2026. That was primarily due to there was this project that was Brightspeed. Brightspeed turned that over to Firefly, so that was their reason of extension. But we're happy to at least see some connections. So that's where we're at in Madison.
We're also waiting to see what's gonna happen with beads. They had the comment period open and Musk wasn't happy, so we'll see where that all lands.
Bead map is very interesting. Not sure how really it all works. But there are some new players that apparently just can pop into Culpeper.
Yeah.
Without attaching to anything, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And Orange County's continuing on its county-owned Orange County Broadband Authority called FiberLink. We have recently changed the rates a bit to gain some customers. We were charging $480 for install and then allowing them to pay for that $20 a month for 24 months. We did away with that, adjusted the rates because we felt like there was a bit of a barrier when someone saw that, they're like, oh, that when you combine the install and the monthly charge, it was still way lower than Comcast. We're about 18% take rate in Lake of the Woods, which now I think we may be able to get up to 50% in there. We haven't done any marketing at all, which is, pretty good for 18%. And so I think we're going to boost some of the marketing pieces and we continue to look for the places we can infill. And
So it seems like the Woods is completely covered by cable.
Lake of the Woods is Comcast, Xfinity
you're
is the provider,
taking
and so
customers.
we're taking customers from them and actually haven't even tried. So it's working pretty well in that regard. And I think we've got now with the change in the rates, sort of less of just a mental barrier. It really wasn't a barrier if you did the analysis Comcast to FiberLink. And I think that's serving us well now, so.
I've been jealous of Orange for a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a reminder, annual meeting and awards dinner will be held Wednesday, October 1st at Ducard Vineyards in Madison with food from Off the Grid and Dan Roberts, Vice President of Research and Strategy from Virginia Tourism Corporation, serving as keynote speaker. Make sure you let staff know if you're going to be able to attend. And in the past years, they've had a basket or something of door prizes for something from each county. So any interest in doing that?
If you want to, then please let me know. If you don't want to, likewise.
I think it's nice to have a basket.
And it doesn't have to be everybody, but it's sort of who wants to. No competition, at least from my perspective. Let you all figure it out.
I took an implied order there.
Let's see what else we got. The RRC annual meeting and leadership awards.
What you just did.
Okay,
Yeah, we're good.
all right. New business. The commission historically has authorized per capita dues rate and regional housing funding requests at its August meeting to enable staff to meet deadlines for local government budget requests. Patrick, would you review? Thank you.
No change?
Yeah, no change, I think is as Mr. Curry said, I do want to let you know that we do this, since it's the first of a 2-year cycle for Fauquier County's budget, that this is the year where we do adjust the population figures, so that would reflect the changed total amount. Which I think, as it says here, is gonna increase to 159,947. And I offered really just the information there on the per capita rate, again, remaining 83 cents. Some of this is setting up the next agenda item, frankly, but just sort of showing the change in the dues, what that has yielded to the commission over, the last 10 years is, from 143 to 159, so about 11%. So the revenue growth, frankly, that we've had has largely been on grants and other revenue sources. And so I think that reflects pretty well in terms of obviously the work that we're doing, but also, wanting to make sure that we're not, coming back to you all, with, okay, we need to bump a request here or there, in terms of the total per capita rate. The other piece is on the Foothills Housing Network, the capacity request for serving as the lead agency. That request has been unchanged since 2015, when it was entered into amongst the localities. That was the same request of leaving that flat. That really just allows us to, the grant funds that do come in for homeless services to really push those out to partners to actually do client services rather than us. And, we've got to keep more of the grant funding that comes in. So I am, again, glad to answer questions on those. You can see also in the packet, you've got for those of you that are beginning budget processes, I'll obviously put in the formal request that you can see the projected change from the last 2 years, in there as well. So again, happy to answer questions or anything else you might need, but I would appreciate adoption of that.
All right. There's no discussion. Can we have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt the per capita regional housing funding request as stated in the memo.
Very good.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to just make one comment. And this is reflective of the history we have in our property tax rate. That you keep it at this same level. This is for the future consideration, not this. You keep it at the current rate, and it has been at that rate for a long time. It's going to be, it makes it increasingly more difficult to increase it at some point in the future, especially, and it's particularly if it hasn't even kept up with inflation. So we have found ourselves in a political situation. Tax rates really low. It's been that way for a long time. And now, after all these years, we decided to increase it. It's going to be more difficult. So I just suggest in the future that in order to keep your revenue distributed fairly across the board and not rely so much on that grant or this grant or with that grant, that you might consider more general renewable revenue streams. Sorry.
Thank you.
That's my only comment.
I move we increase Warrington's rate. He brought this.
All right, moving forward, we have,
I'm sorry.
Gary that was discussion. Yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Good catch. Discussion on the process for seeking economic development district designation for the U.S. Economic Development Administration.
Yeah, and so if you recall, from 2024, last June, the commission adopted the first comprehensive economic development strategy that had been developed, 2022 to 2023. And that I think has opened up, it has allowed us some funding opportunities, not that have really been taken advantage of, but that was sort of one of the purposes of it. What we were approached with from Orange County Economic Development staff, a couple months ago was they were looking they had engaged with EDA, US Economic Development Administration staff, and were looking at some projects. And what they were finding was with the SEDS adopted, they're eligible as long as the project is within a census tract that meets the like low income or the stress, whatever the requirements are for EDA grants. And what they are interested in is a project that isn't in one of those census tracts, but would have benefits for us as one of those eligible census tracts. And to make that possible, the region has to have an economic development district designation. That was always, part of the thought process in pursuing the SEDS. I think my understanding was, wasn't an immediate need afterwards, but now we've been approached, and so I'm putting it in front of you all for guidance in terms of moving forward with that. Included here in the packet was, I did have a conversation actually remotely with PJPDC, who we worked with the SEDS on, with our Virginia representative for USEDA. And what Ms. Stuhlder provided was just the kind of checklist, and in her words, paraphrasing, basically, if you've got the SEDS, you've got most of what you need in terms of the checklist. There are a couple of things, including some board action that I'm not asking for today, but that would be required later on in the process. But I feel like the request from Orange County, I guess I want to make sure that all the other jurisdictions are fine with that. At least us kind of beginning the process of pursuing economic development district designation. The hint from the last agenda item was one of the outcomes potentially is what they call partnership planning funding, which would be an annual funding source for EDA. I think it's 70,000 federal, and they just changed the match requirement to actually go down. It used to be a 50-50 match, but now it's a 60-40. So I think it eventually would require about 45,000 if the match rate was the same. And so I think that's again, not a reason not to go forward, but just sort of if that's something that we do want to pursue, that is a funding piece that probably isn't frankly coverable by our current dues. And so it could either be in the future, increasing dues a certain amount to allocate towards that, having a separate request. It's done differently in lots of different places, but I do want to be upfront about that potential as well, that there would be, we need to identify some funding, either local or, if you prefer to push the General Assembly to increase their contribution to BDCs, that would also be a source as well. So I think for today, I'm really just wanting to hear if anybody has concerns about moving forward with beginning this process, and what we do would come back to you with all the documents that would be required for seeking that submission.
So the 70,000 annual funding comes along with the economic development district designation, or you then have to request that annually?
They do it on a 3-year cycle, and so that you would, like, if you were an economic development district, they have a grant application that's released, but it is over a 3-year period. And so, going back through some of their documentation, it's $210,000 is awarded to, in Virginia, I think there's probably about 11 or 12 PDCs that serve as that economic development, have that designation. The most recent one was Commonwealth Regional Council in Farmville, and I've talked with their director, and I think they felt like it was a fairly simple process to go through. But yes, that funding would be something that has been pretty consistent,
Okay.
Over the years.
It
Any
seems
other
worthwhile to
suggestions?
explore.
And so if I bring back the checklist filled out and, anything else that might be required, that
Any other experience you can get from people who already have one and things, after they caught the bump and realized they didn't know.
right. Okay, I can do that.
Thank you. As everyone I think is aware, the vice chair position was vacated in July with Mr. Voorhees' departure from Orange County. We do need to fill that position, and it'll be a term that ends through February 2026. The executive committee met last week and put forward Mr. Weekly's name. Thank you, Jonathan. To complete the partial term as vice chair. And at this time, I have to ask if there are any other nominations from the floor. Seeing none, we need to vote on his election. So, a motion to approve Mr. Weekly as vice chair.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Woo-hoo. Congratulations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be certain to follow your lead.
Well, I'll try not to let you down. All right, there was no closed session, regional roundtable. Mr. Kiley.
Don't really have a whole lot. We have a lot going on kind of behind the scenes with data centers, water reuse. We're about 65% design on that right now. We've received initial permitting approval from DEQ to 1.25 million gallons per day, and they asked us to do a dam seepage analysis to see if we can increase that to our initial request, which was 2 million gallons per day, and we're doing that right now. So that's moving forward. Some work on power with the data centers associated with one particular site that falls within or actually 2 sites that fall within the town's electric service territory. Other than that, we have an internal project associated with our Heritage Park, the new park, where we're using in-house staff to widen the road East Spencer Street associated with that. That's the things that popped into the top of my head is that we're working on. Continuing to mow grass, even though it is August and it's not supposed to grow. Exciting stuff like that.
Thank you. Mr. McLaren?
Chris didn't mention the pool project, but that's going along well, construction wise, and should be open next year. Should be done this year, be open for May of next year. So that's a big deal for the community. Transportation project season or application season for revenue sharing. We're gonna put in for our full allocation of $10 million, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
For that, for 3 secondary road projects. We got school projects,
Mhm.
got a middle school renovation and addition, new elementary school, number 7.
That's right.
Kicking off this year too, so we got fun capital projects and we have plenty of discussion about a new courthouse and jail,
Oh, yeah.
so. And
The fun never ends.
No, yeah, we're knocking them off the list though. And I'll let Supervisor Lee fill in anything that I didn't, so.
Well, I didn't want to add, there is one fun thing. This past weekend, we celebrated Lafayette Days.
Yeah.
And for you history buffs, Lafayette, I didn't really know much about Lafayette until we had Lafayette Days, and I read several really good articles about his impact in the War of Independence. And so 200 years ago, he came back to the United States in 1825 and did a grand tour of, it was like 13 months, all up and down the East Coast and out west of St. Louis and down to New Orleans and all that kind of stuff. And so we passed through Culpeper literally to the day this past weekend. And so we had this really fun event Friday, mainly Saturday, and then Sunday commemorating Lafayette's visit to Culpeper. We had a paid Lafayette reenactor who came and gave several speeches, and I'm sure spoke a little French. And it was a lot of fun. Lafayette was they had a dinner for him on Main Street in 1825 in Culpeper. It's called the Four Seas Restaurant now, but it used to be the Bill's Tavern is the name of it. And so he dined there with President James Monroe, and big happenings, really historical stuff. So he celebrated all that this year. And I asked last night at the History Museum board meeting, I said, are we going to do this every year? And they were like, no, we'll just do that. We had all these events for the 1 year, but we actually do have every year now. I think we've designated Lafayette Days on this whatever weekend it is. Yeah, last weekend in August. So exciting stuff. And again, if you're a fan of history, Lafayette, wow, read up about all that he did for the United States. Had great personal sacrifice, really, to himself and his family. Interesting stuff. So I'll pass it down to you. Yes, sir.
Alrighty. Things are happening in Warrenton. We've we'll continue, at least on the structural side, to be making major efforts to and are in the middle of rebuilding our water and sewer plant. It's a $99 million commitment over the next 6 years. The problem with our plant was what many of our municipalities face is that we did everything we could to keep our rates low and make everybody happy and didn't anticipate the day when the plant would no longer work. And we saw what happened in Richmond. And obviously that's our #1 priority. So that's well on its way. They've they've laid the concrete for 2, I call them relatively fancy clarifiers, if you can consider a clarifier a fancy item. And by the time we're done, I think we're gonna have done what we should have been doing for the last 2 decades, and that is to make our public aware that maintaining this vital service is not something that can be done on the cheaps. We are also in the middle of, from structural point of view, Broadview, if you ever go around Warrenton from time to time, it's in the middle of construction. VDOT has awarded us a couple of other smart scale grants that are intended to improve the entire Lee Highway corridor. And that's where their focus is. However, behind me, there's 135 home development that is in the process. Ryan Homes will start building in a couple of months, but there is a very difficult intersection at both ends of the project, which will need to be attended to before too long because of the lack of access that the public will have be able to get onto East Lee Street, which is a 4-lane road. So we have our transportation issues in Warrenton. We have started something that I think is relatively novel, and I am the chair of it, and it's the Commission on Open and Transparent Government. It was born from the Amazon application and 2 others that came in over the last 4 or 5 years, where we feel that the public was denied full participation in the process. So the idea is, we hope, restorative. And that is, we would hope to come up with recommendations where, upon analyzing how these applications were processed, when various influences were brought to bear, which shouldn't have been brought to bear at the time, and how we can improve the public participation so that they feel they're either too early or they're too late, but never on time, in order to have their voices heard. So we will be issuing a report probably in the next 6 months from that investigation. Other than that, a new council was seated in January, and it as these political tides change, both at the national, state, and local level, it's changed here at Warrenton. And this one of the initial tasks is that it is set upon itself is to review our zoning ordinances, because density is a matter of great importance. Yet at the same time, we want to preserve the fit and feel of our town without getting carried away with large high rises and things like that. So it's going to be a very exciting and interesting time for the town of Warrenton and for the council, and they're taking their responsibility very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Only got about 24 things that we've got going on simultaneously, but I'll touch on a couple of the recent ones. We did get General Dollar Store back to the table. We did a boundary adjustment to get them into the town limits. And I think the public hearing has happened on that, was ready.
Will happen next month, this month coming.
Okay, so it's,
Mhm.
yeah, okay, so
September
the
11th.
supervisors voted to move forward with it. Yeah, good. I've never seen so much excitement about a Dollar General store. I mean, 45 years ago, we had a supermarket on Main Street in the town of Remington, James Market. And it was a rather popular place. It was like a small Safeway back in the 70s that we were basically accustomed to our age. And she closed down after about 10 years, and we've had no supermarket in town. And
it was, when I became mayor of Remington, that was the number one item, is get us a supermarket. Which I thought was a fabulous idea. Obviously, I couldn't deal with the large supermarkets, like your Giants and Food Lions. But I did they had the thought of Aldi or Lidl, but we didn't fit the demographics of that. And Dollar General had proposed with the county a couple of years ago, and it fell off the table, and everybody was disappointed that we didn't have a general dollar store. So I inserted myself and got them to come back to the table with the county, and it's going to work out. But I didn't know how much. We had a public hearing on it, and we had a couple of people that the public hearing was basically for the boundary adjustment, but they came in to belittle the idea of general dollar. And shortly after that, I was invited to Remington's Homemakers Club to come give a talk, which really turned out to be wonderful. All 12 of them wanted to know how fast the general dollar store was going to come in. And I was like, this is a positive thing. It's the only time I've ever been in a mass meeting where everybody saw something great. So that's a lot of excitement in town today. You know, when we got under contract with Virginia Main Street as a Main Street program, when I pursued that with the idea of the revitalization for a destination program, I thought Virginia Main Street program was a long shot. And here we are today under contract 2 years now, with $10.25 million, no match required grant. And we moved forward on the JM15 revitalization of that. We just finished paving, milling and paving and getting ready to line, and that's going to set us up for burying infrastructure and putting in period lights and safe walk to school from the elementary school to the river access. So that's moving forward. But here recently, we had another long shot that was won, which really surprised me. At least the 45 years that I've lived in the town of Remington, we've had a storm drainage issue. And there was just no interest in determining what root cause and corrective action was to make a right out of a wrong. I've started putting a team together of like DEQ and FEMA. I'm surprised I actually got FEMA's attention. And a couple others, VDOT was part of the team, and somebody suggested that we needed one more component to share cost and resources. So I've reached out and pursued U.S. Corps of Engineers, and I thought that was going to be a really, really tough sell. But about a month ago, we got notification from them that we got $125,000, no match required grant from USACE, 18-month program, and we'll have root cause and corrective action report, and hopefully we'll be able to correct a storm drainage concern. So that was real exciting to get that. I can understand you guys, big guys, could go get something like that, but the town of Remington, I had no idea I was going to get that attention. And I think everything else is moving forward. Swim club. That's about it. I won't take up any more time.
Thank you.
It's exciting stuff though.
Sounds like it.
Just doesn't move fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, for us, the big news has been Remington, but just outside of the town, the Gigaland data centers, it started off as a $3 million square foot proposal 2 years ago. Inched its way down to something smaller and smaller and smaller, and they finally withdrew their application last week. They will come back, but their application is changed so radically from when they first proposed it. I think the thinking now is it needs to go back through planning commission and be vetted by the community again. So we'll see that back in a few months, I'm sure. The school, we have a school under construction. A new council at the town has gotten involved with the contractor, I guess, and that the school is being held up at the moment at I think for 2 or 3 months now. We've been waiting on trying to.
I got, my manager isn't here, so he can't answer your question.
All right. Well, I just found out about a couple of days ago. We're trying to get to the bottom of what the, you know, how to fix it. But that's a, $90 million project in rough numbers. And then we have just, judicial center. We expect any day now to get the first report as to what they think how big it should be and what it ought to look like. I would assume that that's gonna be another year of design and then we'll figure out how we fund this beast. And I think, you know, numbers we've heard are anything from $50 to $100 million for that one. Thought there was one more that I wanted to touch on and I can't remember what it was. Oh, yes, that is exactly what it was. Yeah, the building that we operate in is for sale. And anybody wants to start a boutique hotel, now's the time to get your bids in.
You September 15th?
The Warren Green Hotel?
Yeah.
Yes,
That'd be
and then-
really cool. Yeah.
It was.
So where y'all gonna move to?
We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
One step at a time. We have other properties that we can.
Right.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of musical chairs over the years. I think it
Uh-huh.
might be time for us to upgrade and actually do something more.
Right,
permanent.
yeah, something.
Yeah, but
Modern.
I mean, the Warren Green has a ton of history and
Yeah.
I think the board unanimously supports the idea of it going back to its historical use.
Yeah.
So
Great.
we're excited about that. And the deal will, when we sell, there will be covenants in the deed to ensure it stays as a boutique hotel, forever and ever.
And hopefully partnership with the town on a piece of property they have.
Yeah. Talk about data centers. You'd think those data centers were in the town limits.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. They're a mile from you.
I could probably get more attention than you guys do.
Oh, good luck on that. I don't know. I've never spent so much time for something that didn't happen.
That's fact.
Yeah.
It ain't happened yet.
And in the town, when Amazon came in, you know, your colleague, Bill, on the town council, many of them said the silent majority really was in favor of this thing. What we're hearing is the silent majority really
Really
doesn't
opposed,
want,
but-
yeah, it's like, how could the silent majority be so different in the town of Warrenton versus the county? It's tough business.
Well, and I don't mean to interrupt your little speech, but it's, the silent majority was total 11.
Yeah, I
I mean,
know.
that was the vocal silent majority.
Oh, I know.
And those who were against that, the Amazon total 2,700.
Yeah.
So it was a little unbalanced.
Yeah.
And I guess it's same down here.
Yeah, I make light of it, but I think that the sentiment is really interesting in the town of Remington or in the region of Remington, scooting all the way up to Bealton. It seems as though folks were in favor of it.
Yeah,
But
that's my read.
then we started finding out that the developer was paying people to send positive responses. And it's just like, I mean, I think they had support and then they undercut
Right,
themselves
right.
so badly by doing that. And now folks are, it isn't about the project anymore, it's about the people.
Mhm.
And they don't like those people and they don't want them to win. So it's like, well, people are gonna be gone. What happens to the land is the thing that matters.
Right.
This debate, we'll be talking about it here in another 6 months. That's all I've got.
Only thing to add is our Motorola radios are coming in for deployment, delivery, et cetera. We also had federal assess our, I guess the
Regional
network. So I'll be in touch with you just to talk about what they're reading and what kind of capital investment in the future. Future.
So Orange County, I'll give you some breaking news, but it's probably not gonna break until a little bit later today or tomorrow, so please don't send Glenda Bradley Paul a note. We are going to have Glenda take over as our county administrator. She's been interim administrator. She was gonna retire at the end of the year, and I think she thought about it a little bit. She has a full support and confidence of the board. So I know many of you know Glenda, have worked with Glenda. Just, she's on vacation right now, so don't send her an email while she's on vacation. Next week on Tuesday, send her an email and say congratulations, and we're thrilled. She's got a long history in Orange County with us, and she's gonna be absolutely phenomenal. We thought for a while we were gonna have to go out and do a search, but we don't. So that's good. Good news for us. We are working on a CTE building with the schools in Orange County that'll be on campus. So that process is sort of underway. It's probably not going as fast as we want it to. So we're working with the school division and the school board and working hard to get that going. We've got some momentum behind it. We want to continue that effort. We continue to have water and sewer issues throughout the county, but in particular in Eastern Orange. I think today or yesterday was the day we got our water service back after a week out. Last year at this time, we have no alternate source of water, and it's a ongoing problem. I thought it was, so I was driving home from our supervisor meeting last night. I had a call from our local restaurateur, one of the local restaurateurs who said, you know, it's been a year and the water main broke out in front of the restaurant. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So he was without water last year and had a water main break, but they were able to fix it. But we just simply, and I know you mentioned Richmond earlier. We were before Richmond. And I was hoping when Richmond happened that there would be a wake-up call on water. There apparently hasn't been, at least to the extent that there should be. So we're going to continue to work on those issues. And interestingly enough, the grant issue that we talked about earlier with the demographic challenges coming from Orange County, that's important because our census tracts just kick us out of any competition, but our need for those grants is as high as anybody in the Commonwealth. And so I really appreciate if that can happen in any way that we could advance some important grant applications to help us down the way. I think water issues are going to be an enormous issue in the coming years, and I would foresee that what we're seeing everywhere, whether it be upgrading a treatment plant, having an alternate source of water, the regional water planning, a 5-year program is going to be vitally important. We're looking at a new water plant and carbon filtration, because we have some really nasty smelling water when they have to add all the stuff to it. It just doesn't work for us. On the zoning side of things, we are doing a rewrite of our zoning ordinance, including looking at a couple of new zoning districts, which would encompass rural service, a rural residential, and a technology district that would not be by right, but it would be depending on what technology / data center type activities, although it doesn't have to be data center, it could be a whole host of things in the technology front. But should that happen, we want to have the mechanisms in place to be able to put a district down, to have the proper setbacks and buffers, and learn the lessons that not only were highlighted in the JLARC study, but what we're also seeing from counties all over the place. And in terms of, well, we had a 200-foot buffer or a setback, and that was ridiculous, it was almost like not having one. And we put it right next to residential. Love the J-Lark study that said, that use, it's an industrial use, it shouldn't be next to residential. So we're just trying to learn some good lessons, from folks before we, and maybe we don't ever go there. It has to be right and it has to be appropriate, but we have to have the zoning, in place, and we're looking at our neighbors, to learn. Your staff's probably getting a lot of calls from our staff. Whenever you answer that phone, thank you for that. We need it. We just need to have some sense of where other people are, what they've seen, and how to learn from it appropriately. And then on the sad part, we had Casey Daniel, who was our 24-year extension agent, and also a very important piece of Madison County, and has great history in Madison County, but she passed at 44 years old, from terminal cancer, and very sad. I happened to go to the middle school down in Madison. The gym was full. So her impact in Orange and Madison was beyond what, you could ever think in terms of the 4-H and the work that she did with our youth and the youth in the region. So big loss, but certainly a great celebration of her legacy is just enormous. I mean, and I think it will help this region for a long, long time. So
I could just add, you mentioned Richmond and the wake-up call. There has been somewhat of a wake-up call from the health department. There's a 2-hour notification requirement now. Hopefully all of y'all know about that. But I just warn you, when you make that 2-hour call, now instead of just trying to fix the problem that you have, you're gonna have to try to help explain to a non-operator, non-maintenance type person that it's really not that big of a deal, or it is a big deal, or whatever, but be prepared, because it just complicates the heck out of it when you actually have a serious issue you're trying to address. And you got, somebody from Richmond on the other end of the line wanting to call hospitals and things like that. And what you really want to tell them is, would you just go away? This is gonna be over by morning.
yeah, well, we probably were the result of that. I mean, that legislation came out of our water crisis emergency, and part of the issue is we didn't tell anybody. I didn't know anything. I was trying to find out, and there were people who knew things and didn't say it. And frankly, that's a borderline criminal, that to not tell people what's going on. There was great concern. People thought there were diesel fuel in their water, and people had kids, and we have a big elderly population in the area that it hit. It was not fun, and we advocated and for the bill at the 6-hour notification. I think it was 6 hours. And then the governor actually moved it to 2, so you can thank him for that. Personally, I understand there are the bureaucrats maybe down in Richmond that may ask some questions, and I appreciate that. But for the public, I think this was a win for the public, because I saw a big fat loss last year.
I think it'll end up being, it's just a very big.
You just
gray
gotta
area
get
right
used
now.
to how it works, right?
And I think there's some folks at the regulatory side that hopefully they'll learn as time goes by as to what is actually a crisis and what isn't a crisis. It's just business as normal.
Yeah.
Just because something breaks at a water plant does not mean it's a crisis. Although right now, if something breaks at your water plant,
It
it's
could
a 2-hour
cause-
report.
Yeah.
And depending on who answers the phone on the other side, they don't know the difference. They think it's a crisis.
And that's a great point,
So I'm
because
just saying, just everybody be prepared and for that to occur
much of our
at
infrastructure
2 in the morning.
is old too, so it's likely to break. And yeah, you're right. I appreciate that. And again, I testified in favor of that bill in full, but I testified for a 6-hour notification. Because we couldn't get any notification last year. And when it was moved to 2 hours, I was kind of surprised at that, but
Yeah.
I think that came on the heels of the Richmond
I
is
think
why it moved to 2, because there were other issues going on first day of the
It's
second.
kind of hard to figure out what ends up in 2 hours.
Right.
Depending on what the issue is.
Brian, the one thing I would say, as y'all are looking at your zoning and talking about water, we've had enormous success and no pushback at all with saying that data centers cannot use water in Fauquier County. And they don't push back at all.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. In fact, that is essentially our position is well, we couldn't approve it. If we approved data centers using potable water, there would be literally a riot. I mean, a full-fledged riot, and I'd probably be leading the charge on that. And so, based on what we experienced last year, and so we are talking about no potable water for a data center or a technology district, whatever that use might be.
And no evaporative cooling at all, because they could tap into their own water source, in the
Right.
water table and
Yeah,
suck the sponge dry.
yes,
But yeah, no evaporative cooling at all. And
yeah, Yep.
been in discussions on the Rappahannock River Basin Commission.
and I'm on it with you.
Yes.
You
And
got a quorum here.
Well, careful.
talking about trying to get some legislative push to make this a statewide thing, or at least an overlay within. So I'm hopeful we'll all keep ringing that gong and get some progress there.
Appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wood?
Mayor Brooks isn't here, but in honor of Mayor Horner, I would say that they opened the pool that we've heard about 2 weeks ago. The round, it was really nice. And I was thinking I ought to be saying that, making sure they're not here, because that would have been theirs. We are we're at phase 2 of our standpipe, which the standpipe is up and operating. This is our 2 million gallon reservoir underneath it, and new electronics, new pump buildings, and a fence for phase 2. And we're about 80% on the our radio read water meter replacement project, and it's got issues, but it's coming along. Other than that, I'll give you some dates. Tomorrow night is the last Music in the Park. If you'd like to attend, it'll be the last one for this year, excuse me. And our Orangetoberfest is September the 27th. That's done by the ODA. And the Chambers Street Festival is September the 6th. And our Halloween has been moved to October the 30th in the town to close the streets, because we've never done this before, but on Halloween day happens to be the homecoming for football team, and they'll have their own parade. And the next day is Montpelier races. So we moved it forward. And last I say, I've seen most of you have heard, I have resigned. I want to say it's been a pleasure and an honor to serve on this commission for the past 15 years. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement.
It's no problem.
Oh, Mr. Jones. I'll just pile on what others said. Utilities, our little Sperryville wastewater treatment plant that did everything they could to not spend money is now having to do a significant rehab for them. So that's happening. And courthouses, our board is deciding whether 141 years is the right period of time you should use the courthouse, whether maybe it should be longer. They're working on that. Not sure if and when they'll find conclusion on that matter.
It's only been talked about since the 70s. Why rush?
Yeah.
We're at about that point, aren't we, Sam? This is similar.
Yeah, we have no schools in sight for construction, so that's good. And broadband we talked about earlier.
We speak with one voice.
One voice. Okay. And, the only thing I have is not about Rappahannock, but, I have heard and confirmed that Loudoun County has 6 data centers that have been built that do not have power yet, so they won't have anything in them until the Dominion power situation gets resolved. And also I have concern that REC, is going to grow rapidly over the next 10 years. You know, rumors out there about brownouts and blackouts and all that good stuff. So really trying to pay attention to, you know, Rappahannock's not gonna have a data center, but we could be heavily impacted by electric if things don't go well.
So that's the same RTD deal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we have one of our data centers is under construction and they just came back and said, we'd like to change our backup generators to full-on gas turbines so we can power our own. And that's not a by right thing. So they're gonna have to go through a rezoning to get that. So,
PEC will love that.
oh, it's an opportunity for us to do some more negotiating, I think is what it is.
Continuing with the rumors, the data centers, I've been told, will probably end up having their own little mini nuclear plants in the future.
Oh, yeah.
To take care of it. So,
Some places do.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And I think that's all I have. Oh, Jonathan, sorry, Jonathan.
No worries. I'm listening to all the good things. I'll be brief. The Board of Supervisors last night approved roughly about $4 million, what we'll call short-term debt. Some capital needs, basically rehab, maintenance things, whether it's school or county related. So got that going to closing, I think, by September the 12th. Our Hoover Ridge Phase 1A project is almost coming to the close. That was some stormwater and some grading. Parks are wrecked in the county. We're trying to work very expeditiously on trying to get the next phases, but it's all about funding. We've had a couple of kind big donors that hopefully those checks will move from their accounts over to Parks and Rec or Support Hoover Ridge, which is a 501c3 arm of the park. So we can get that going. Ultimately, that park, it will have our hockey program will be there. There'll be other court plays such as pickleball, basketball. We're stealing from Culpeper. We'll have our own splash pad over there at some point. Not a pool, so nothing sexy there. Go see the county and town about maybe some membership there or Gordonsville. But we'll have a splash pad. So pretty excited about that. It just takes some time, as you know, with government and funding, but Phase 1A will wrap up soon. And then last, we have our 31st Taste of the Mountain Street Festival will be this Saturday. So the town of Madison, the whole Main Street gets shut down from 9 to 4. Whether you're hungry or you want to listen to music, buy some, homemade jewelry. I think there's a magician there every year. Please come out if that's your thing to kind of get a taste of the mountain. So that's all I had to report on from Madison County. I do want to thank Mr. Nickel for those kind words about Casey. A huge loss, not only for Madison County, obviously, former classmates, so that kind of sticks in you a little bit as well, but done a lot for the region, a lot in 4-H. There's going to be many generations that I think there was one young lady who spoke there who worked out of the Orange office who got her love for 4-H and the extension office through Casey. So a lot of impact and a lot of, I guess could say, future leaders that will be a product of Casey and the extension program. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anything else, sir? All right. Everybody's good. Will somebody move for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second? All in favor?
Aye.